Picture what your face is saying.
Ready? Here we go. Good evening. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the schedule of the meetings of the Township Council established and adopted by the Township Council, which schedule designating the time and date and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. We're using an electronic amplifying and recording device in order to obtain a clear and audible record, and request that all those wishing to speak be recognized and state your name and address directly to the microphone. The recording device will be solely utilized by the Township Clerk's office for the preparation of the minutes and shall be the official record of the Township Council meetings. Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
Mr. Mignon?
Here.
Albright Troxel? Here. Mrs. Grace Love? Here. Mr. Nash?
Here.
Mrs. Walters? Here. Mrs. Winters? Here. Mr. Mercado?
Present.
Mr. Carlemere? Mr. Cardis?
Here.
Deputy Chief Manazzi?
Here.
Ms. Corbin?
Mr. Carlemere will be joining us shortly. He's running a little late. We'll now have our first public portion. This is for agenda items only. Anyone addressing council may speak one time. Once all those wishing to address council have had their turns, they may address council a second time. Each speaker is entitled to 3 minutes, and there's 15 minutes total for the first public portion. Would anyone like to speak on any agenda items only? Mr. Burns.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Brian Burns, 5 Slowwood Drive in Ariel. I spoke on this topic before, and it's up before you guys again tonight with regard to rezoning block 14807, lots 1 and 2, from environmental residential to highway commercial.
Mr. Burns, I don't want to interrupt you. There is a public hearing on that if you want to save your comments for that.
Okay, but I do have 3 minutes, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, when will they?
That's what, we have a reading, there's a hearing, and you can speak on
Will
that.
that be tonight?
Yes.
Okay, I'll wait till then.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else? Ms. Smithman?
Hi, good evening, Council. My name is Shauna
Good evening.
Smithman. I live in the SDK Millbridge Gardens apartment complex on Millbrook Court, apartment 341. This is for the November 13th, 2024.
Yes, November 13th, 2024.
And let's see, on the last page, at the bottom of the first page, the resolution, it refers to something of a reallocation. It says it's a .com.
That's realauction.com. That's for online tax sale that the municipality participates in.
Right, I'm going to ask once again, does that take away from having to notify people through the United States Postal Service? I think I brought this up before, when you switch things over to technology and doing things such as tax sales or anything that has to do with the municipality, if you transfer it to online, does it still include going through the original channels such as the United States Postal Service?
Mr. Cars, those individuals that show up on a tax sale that are delinquent in their sewer or their taxes are notified, they are the avail.
Before this real,
Yes,
what is it, how was it? referred?
real auction.
So they're notified through both through this new .com company and through the United States Postal Service?
No, realauction.com is the site that hosts the bids that take place for those tax lien sales. They're not notifying those individuals. The township notifies those individuals, correct, Mr. Carter?
And previously, how were they done if somebody wanted to make a bid on a tax sale?
There used to be an in-person tax lien sale here in council chambers, and we moved away from that 5, 6, 7 years ago.
I don't know the procedure for how they would sign up with the auction company, but they can do that.
But did you make all the residents aware? I mean, unfortunately, it's a good portion of these tax sales might be coming from senior citizens that have either passed or moved out of their home. If they are going through financial troubles to where it has to go through a tax sale, they are most likely not fully aware of all the changes that have been made on how the process, how the procedures are performed.
It has not changed. It's been the same for several years now.
Well, for 7 years, but people have
Several
been,
years. I didn't say seven, several years.
well, people have owned their home for
Everyone is
decades.
notified in accordance with state statute, because we have to comply with state statute on a tax sale. Everyone is properly notified.
And the
Thank you, Ms.
procedures,
Ms. Smith, and I'm sorry, your time's up.
thank you, Council.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Ms. Smith, would you like to continue? No one else has raised their hand. Would you like to continue? You have another 3 minutes.
I thought I wasn't allowed to bring up the same topic more than,
Are you adding to what you previously said?
well, could you possibly try to give a little bit more details to how you feel that several years of a change for something as significant as people that have been homeowned, like I don't own a home, I never had it because there's a lot to it. And something like
So,
this
Ms. Smith,
would be,
the people, I'm sorry to cut you off. So if people are delinquent in their taxes or in their sewer utility bill, they're notified by the township. They have an opportunity to rectify that by a certain time period. If they do not rectify by that certain date, then their property or that lien, that tax lien, someone could purchase it. So you don't have people that are coming here and say, hey, I gotta pay this off that day. You have people who are looking to buy tax lien certificates. And this is an online auction. People can register for it and they can purchase those tax lien certificates.
but the homeowners, if somebody already owned their home, the chances are unlikely that the next of kin may not be aware of these technological changes either. The .com, the people that utilize technology to make purchases and talk with and communicate with things such as the municipality may not be aware of this either. So you're also denying them from repurchasing the home to keep it within their own family.
No, that is incorrect. They are notified by the township. They're notified that they have to try to resolve this matter by a certain date or we'll go to a tax sale.
And the procedure.
It
that
is
you're-
sent to the home. It is sent to that
But the way that
homeowner.
you're actually performing the tax sale now is through technology. At the very least, is it taught in school? I mean, when I was in school, they did touch on checking accounts and different things. By the time I was in high school, there was a few mentions of interest rates and mortgages and such, but it wasn't really taught. I don't remember them ever teaching anything about these things, which I think is very important, things such as how to pay your taxes at the local municipality, but we were just children. I wouldn't think to ask. Now that I'm an adult and I've never owned a home, I never made any large purchases because I know that there's a lot to it that I wasn't taught. And now the things that I didn't know have now changed so dramatically that you have to own a computer. The library in Williamstown, New Jersey, in Monroe Township, isn't there anymore. There's another building there. They moved the entire library itself. So and I was unaware of that. I had lived in Williamstown since 1979. And I've always lived in the state of New Jersey. Only one township over, I just moved one county over. And I still am unaware. So at the very least, do you teach this?
We notify the individuals about the tax sale. Thank you,
Great,
Ms.
thank
Smith.
you.
With that, we'll close the second public portion. Excuse me, first public portion. Bid report, online tax sale host services. May I have a motion, please?
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is the ordinance, the second reading. There'll be a public hearing. Ordinance 0-24-19, ordinance of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, adopting an amendment to the Villages of Gloucester Township redevelopment plan in accordance with NJSA 4812A-1 et sec local redevelopment and housing law. This amended plan went to the planning board. The planning board provided the recommendations. Council is moving forward to accept the recommendations of the planning board and adopt the amended redevelopment plan, named the amended Villages of Gloucester Township redevelopment plan. This provides an opportunity to extend opportunities southward along the Black Horse Pike with a new mixed-use development zone and a neighborhood overlay district. We do have a representative of T&M that did the plan. If we have any questions, we can defer to you if we have any questions as well. We'll now open up the public hearing to the public. Anyone wish to speak on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. May I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second motion.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
No on 24-22, yes on the remainder.
There was only one, sir. It was 19.
Oh, 19, yes, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is ordinance 0-24-21, ordinance of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, amending the fee schedule of Chapter 500 Land Development Ordinance. This amends the application escrow fees of the Land Development Ordinance of the Township of Gloucester. We'll now open up, will be subject to a public hearing. We'll now open up the public hearing. Anyone wish to speak, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll close public hearing. I entertain a motion to accept the ordinance.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is ordinance -24-22. There will be a second reading, and this is second reading and a public hearing. An ordinance of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, adopting amendment to the Gloucester Township zoning map. What this does, it removes the environmental residential zone designation for block 14807, lot 1 and lot 3, and to delineate the new zoning district designation of block 14807, lot 1 and lot 3 to highway commercial zone. We'll now open up the hearing. Mr. Burr, would you like to speak? There is no time limit on this.
Good evening, council. As you folks are aware, I'm an advocate of preserving open space. If you were to look at the township zoning map, there are essentially two areas that are zoned environmental residential. One is the Murray Hayes, the Little Mill tract, and the other one is this particular property here, which is a riparian buffer. If you're not familiar with riparian buffers, it refers to the forests that grow in the lowlands along the floodplains. This particular property is along Big Lebanon Run, which drains most of the aerial section of the township. I'm a little confused as to why the master plan says to change the zoning. At the same time, the master plan has the following language. This is from the master plan reexamination report. On page 8, it states, preserve environmentally sensitive land and scenic landscapes, especially along stream corridors. And that's exactly what this is. It's a mature hardwood forest. There are trees there over 100 years old. It's a combination of tulip, beech, hickory, oak, maple. Let me ask, has any council member actually seen the site and been on the site?
Yes, not deep, but I know the site very familiar.
Right, so if you haven't been there, do you really think it's wise to just verbalize the word yes and destroy this incredibly environmentally sensitive area? I mean, why do you think it's already zoned environmental residential? It was decided years ago that this is worth preserving. And without visiting the site, I anticipate everyone's just going to say yes. and it's going to be destroyed. It just doesn't make sense, especially when the township's own master plan reexamination specifically says preserve environmentally sensitive land, especially along stream corridors. And that is exactly what this is. Page 8 also says restrict development on environmentally sensitive land to recreational and conservation purposes. On page 11, it says maintain the integrity of stream channels for their biological functions as well as drainage. Page 12, preserve environmentally sensitive land from development or other potentially damaging influences. So this is from the re-examination plan. You haven't seen the site, and yet you plan to vote on it tonight. It doesn't make sense. And you can only point to 2 places on the zoning map that had environmentally sensitive land, residential environmental. One is the Little Mill tract, which I commend you for, preserving or in the process of preserving. This is the other one. No, you can't get back more land. You can't rebuild Climax Forest that exists there. If you haven't seen it, I don't know how any rational person can just verbalize the word yes and do away with it. It doesn't make sense. So thank you for your time and listening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to speak? Ms. Coyne?
Denise Coyne, Choose Landing. I agree with Brian. We have a master plan for a reason, and this property is zoned that specific way for a reason. And can somebody tell me how many acres this property is?
I don't have that on top of my head. Ms. Corbin, you have?
So lot 1 is approximately 3 acres and lot 3 is approximately 1 acre.
So 4 acres. Because the other thing I wanted to bring up was in the past, recent past, I recall council rezoning a piece of highway commercial property to residential. And one of the reasons that was given the last time this was brought up at a council meeting was that you guys wanted to rezone it for economic reasons for the township because it would be highway commercial and it would be ratables. But yet you rezone highway commercial property for residential. So it really doesn't make any sense to rezone 14 acres of highway commercial, make it residential, and then rezone 4 acres that's not highway commercial to make it highway commercial. I mean, it's not even logical. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. I entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
No.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
No.
Mrs. Walters?
No.
Mrs. Winters?
No.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is our consent agenda any council member would like to have any item removed from this consent agenda, please speak up. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Resolution 362, resolution to make budget transfers between appropriations in the calendar year 2024 general fund budget.
May I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Now to our e-govs. We have about 7 of them this evening. And I have 2 from individuals that are in the audience. Ms. Hendry and Mr. Leader. Would you like to read your e-govs or they'll be read during the second public portion? Mr. Leader?
Okay.
Read it during the second public portion. I'll count towards your time. Ms. Hendry?
You can read it.
Okay. But I'll also count towards your time towards the second public portion. First is from Jimmy Jones of 100 Lincoln Drive. Police department expenses should be accounted for within the annual operating budget, not through long-term borrowing. If police-related costs are contributing heavily to our debt, does this indicate a failure in budget management? What specific reasons can the council provide for not addressing these expenses within the yearly budget despite prior resident warnings? Our police department expenses are accounted for within the annual budget as well as long-term borrowing. Each year, we have capital projects that entails purchasing vehicles and equipment for our police department. Police equipment has a documented useful life of exceeding 5 years, and we're able to do long-term borrowing for those purchases. All items that are purchased by the township go through a bond ordinance. They're thoroughly reviewed by our bond counsel, and they meet the requirements of the state and local bond law. Our next question, eGov, is from Stacy Smariglio from 1680 Old Black Horse Pike. I submitted before and the police did respond. However, today my house was hit by a truck. An accident occurred, 3 vehicles involved, and the one vehicle hit the front of my house. I'm so thankful no one was seriously hurt, but I'm asking again for the speed limit to be reduced on Old Black Horse Pike at the very least. There is no need for the speed limit to be 40 when it's all residential homes. Please reduce the speed with the hopes to keeping more people safe. The chief presented, he's not here today, Deputy Chief Nas is here, but the chief provided me a response to that eGov, and we'll also forward that to Ms. Smariglio, that the roadway is in compliance with the New Jersey Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. It's determined that the speed limit set forth was reasonable. This was corroborated using traffic speed volume counts that the Gloucester Township Police Department conducted on multiple occasions through 2019 and 2024. Crash data from 2010 to 2024 showed 68 crashes occurred on Old Black Horse Pike, approximately 5 per year, with only 3 of those crashes attributed to unsafe speed, or 4% of the crashes. Further review of the intersection with Taylor Ave shows 12 crashes over that same time, with only 1 being attributed to unsafe speed. The crash in referred to in the question was attributed to improper turning, failure to yield, not speeding. A traffic area was completed and the approximate number of warning and regulatory signs are installed along the length of the roadway. And over the last year, they have conducted robust enforcement operations along the roadway to include bus stop and speed enforcement operations. There have been over 100 entries into the records management system related to the enforcement activity over the year. The traffic safety unit will continue to explore or observe that particular roadway, but I'll make sure Ms. Smariglio gets a response from the chief. The next is from Joe Allen of Bellissimo Court. Given that tax increases have been implemented regularly, why were the residents not informed earlier about the substantial and growing debt burden? This has been something Pete Heimball, Sam Sweet, and many others have been bringing up to your attention for years now. What steps will council take to improve transparency, ensure that residents are fully aware of the township's financial situation in the future? Our audits and our budgets are put on the township's website for everyone to view. The debt has declined in the percentage in the past 10 years for the township. Per the statute of the state of New Jersey, the township is allowed to go up to 3.5% of the 3-year average of the net valuation taxable. The township is well below that percentage. As of 12/31 last year, the township's percentage of debt was at 1.19%, and that has been declining. Is that correct, Mr. Cardis? You are correct. Our next question is from Rich Coyne of 1060 Choose Landing Road. What steps are being considered to hold the mayor, business administrator, and other officials accountable for the decisions that have put us in this unsustainable debt? Also, how does the council plan to respond to the fact that residents' concerns about excessive spending and borrowing were previously ignored. 2, what specific financial policies or safeguards will be put in place to prevent more debt, ensure responsible spending, and rebuild public trust without having to resort to selling public assets like the sewer system again? In regards to debt, I'm just echoing what my response to Mr. Allen was, that our debt has declined in the past 10 years. The Township Council Administration will continue to budget responsibly. We'll now go into, as we head towards the new year, the budget process. There is a process that takes place with the administration, meets with department heads, and they provide their information of their needs to the administration, and we go through a budget process in the springtime. Earlier today at a workshop, we rejected bids for a project that we are very interested in doing, having batting cages for recreation organizations, and that's not something that we can move forward with. So it's examining everything that's coming across our desk and being more prudent. There are many needs that the township has, but there's also wants as well. So it's finding a balancing act between those two things. Our next question is from Albert Newton of 1341 Blackwood Clementon Road. If council recalls last year when the Gloucester Township administration believed that the sewer system will be sold off, council voted to approve to sweep away the GTMUA 6 million renewal and replenishment fund. Now that Gloucester Township Sewer Department will continue to be run by Gloucester Township Public Works, is the GT administration considering returning those funds to help ensure that our sewer system continues to run smoothly? The $6 million renewal and replacement fund was dissolved when it went from an authority to a utility. That renewal and replacement fund is now surplus. These funds have been used for our sewer system or to offset any increases in our municipal budget and has been returned to our residents. Albert Newton, once again from 1341 Blackwood Clementon Road. Under the assumption that Gloucester Township would receive a cash windfall from the sewer sale, the Gloucester Township administration made a list of large spending commitments. Now that the sewer sale is voted down and this cash will not be forthcoming, what will become of these spending commitments? I ask that the council please walk through the list addressing each item individually. For council's convenience, I have attached the list below. Eliminate all township debt estimated at $64 million, reducing approximately $8 million annually in the budget that's currently used for debt service. Our debt remains at that roundabout figure, and our debt service will most likely be in that $8 million annually. 2, use $35 million to decrease and freeze local property taxes over the next 5 years. There's not $35 million to decrease that or freeze property taxes, but we'll try to stabilize, as we do every year, our taxes. 3, guarantee continued employment for all sewer employees with the township and public works. Those individuals remain within the sewer utility and they are still working with the township. Free sewer lateral cleanups for all Gloucester Township residents 24/7, 365 days a year. Mr. Cars, that continues. Is that correct?
We have not discussed that.
That's not? Okay. So that's something that we can address with administration. Recreation enhancement program, setting aside $10 to $15 million to fund recreational projects for all age groups through an application process. There will not be an application process. Each year we do a capital improvement project and we will identify certain projects that we can earmark for any type of activities, whether recreational, expanding senior citizens, or arts and cultural activities. In addition to that, police and fire responders funding to be made available for support apparatus and other assistance. In regards to our police, there's a capital budget that we do each year. If there are needs that we have to address, we will address that in our capital budget. That concludes our e-govs. We now go to our second public portion, but I'm going to start off with the 2 e-govs that I received. One from Mr. Leader and one from Ms. Hendry. Our first is from Mr. Leader, who's in the attendance this evening. Thanks for the help. 2 points. It was documented that Mr. Mercado stated at the beginning of the meeting that the meeting was of a limited time for public comment. I believe he's referring to the August 8th meeting. My demand to be heard statements said twice was not recorded. The reason I said I demand to be heard is because the meeting was closed prematurely. I had my arm raised every time the call for speakers was announced. Mr. Mercado abridged my constitutional right to address my government. Check out the First Amendment of our Constitution. I request that either an addendum be issued or the minutes be rewritten to be more truthful, accurate, and complete. Mr. Leader, the minutes are not a word-for-word account. At that meeting, I had indicated we went up and down both sides, and I said, when the last speaker, he was from Wyoke, and his name was Mr. Shuck. I said, you will be the last speaker, and he was the last speaker, and we ended the public portion. So that is the account, Mr. Leader, and the minutes will not be amended. Next is Ms. Hendry from 89 Lamppost Lane. The question is, the council president previously claimed that the debt is due to investments in roads, parks, and police. If this is the case, can you present the financial planning and bond issuance details for these projects, including anticipated repayment schedules and identified revenue sources? The bond issuance details and anticipated repayment schedules, they are identified in our annual debt statement and our annual audit report. These reports are available to anyone on the township's website. Anyone who would like to speak in the second public portion, please raise your hand. Each speaker is entitled to 5 minutes. Mr. Leader, you went first already because I read yours. Ms. Coyne, followed by Mr. Polidoro.
Denise Coyne, Choose Landing. As far as the sewer cleanouts that the MUA used to do, that now you're not certain you're going to continue to do, I believe I read when you dissolved the MUA that you had to provide the same services that were being provided prior to the dissolution. Is that not true?
So those services, Ms. Coyne, this body was unaware, and also the administration was unaware that they were being performed on a routine basis. People were scheduling these things. It wasn't an emergency at 3 a.m. There are people that were scheduling these things, and that was unbeknownst to the administration and council here. So Mr. Carter, who oversees the public works, that's the conversation he'll have with the administration regarding going forward with that.
So just a comment on that, there'll be a discussion about it. There is a difference between what was being provided and what was proposed to be provided if the sewer referendum had passed. And so there is consideration of not doing it at all, doing it as it was before the referendum was posted, and doing what was posted on the website that would take place if the referendum passed. So there's really 3 scenarios that need to be discussed, and they have not been discussed yet.
Okay, but my question was, when the MUA was dissolved, I believe I read that it wasn't an option. You had to provide the same services that were being provided prior to the MUA being dissolved. Is that not true?
I know that we did, can I speak?
Yes.
I know that we continued to provide those services, so there was not an interruption in those services. I know that we continued those services up to a point in time during the day. It was not 24/7. It was not 365 days, as was proposed in the bullets that were listed on the township website for the sewer center.
What I'm saying is what the MUA was doing prior to being dissolved, as far as what I understand, has to be continued. So if the MUA was doing free sewer cleanouts prior to the dissolution, according to what I recall reading, you would have to continue to do that as an agreement to being able to dissolve the MUA and make it a sewer utility.
I don't recall that at all.
I read it. It said that you had to offer the same services that were being provided prior to the dissolution. You had to agree to that in order to dissolve the MUA.
You're saying that the Division of Local Government Services when the DCA agreed to the dissolution, that they stipulated in the resolution for the dissolution that we had to do the cleanouts. Is that what
Yes,
you're saying?
you had to provide the same services that were being provided
I
prior
would like
to
see that
the
in writing.
dissolution.
I will go through that resolution. I will get you a copy of it too, if you don't already have it, because it has to be spelled out in the resolution that was approved by the local finance board.
Okay, I'll find you where I read it, because I do remember reading it.
Be more than happy to take a look at
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Polidoro?
Good evening, Council. Ray Polidor from the Historic Village of Ariel.
Good evening.
Before my time starts, will you grant those people who sent the eGov questions in that you read during the second public portion, will you allow them the balance of their time to respond?
If we have time available, we have 30 minutes during our time period.
Okay. All right. So just to recap on the discussion that we've had for some time, that you guys had dissolved a perfectly working and perfectly effective MUA. When we talk about the money, you've already spoken of that. At a time when you were dissolving the MUA, you were asked time and time again if there was any thought of selling. I think Curtis' word for that would be you were disingenuous with that. Then you had come up to say that it was going to be put up for bid to see what it was worth. And apparently two different private companies thought it was worth different, 151 million, 143 million. That being the case, later you put it out for bid, and then you decided to go with the story that you were going to put this out to the people of Gloucester Township, and you were going to put it on a referendum, and you would live by what the people of Gloucester Township decided. Well, Gloucester Township people have decided by a vote of around 21,000, about 4,000. They've spoke loud and they've spoke resoundingly. With that, if you honor your word, and we heard it time and time again, that you will abide by the wishes of the people and they have spoken, will you now state that the sale of our sewer is now set? It's not going to happen. Any answer other than yes, including silence, I'll accept as a no. Will you say that this is put to bed, that you will not be selling sewage system of Gloucester Township for any time in the foreseeable future?
Mr. Polidoro, so the voters rejected the referendum. We accept the results of the election last Tuesday. We know that there is a value to our sewer system, and there is always an opportunity to revisit that. That's my response to you.
Okay, so theoretically,
We still have it. We still have a sewer utility that we're running, and we'll continue to run that.
okay. But my question is, now that we have spoken and all the people have spoken, for the foreseeable future, will you take that off the docket? There'll be no sale of our sewer system. Will you honor the wishes of the people of Gloucester Township? For the record, will you say, yes, we're pulling the opportunity to sell our sewer system?
I responded to you, sir.
No, I said anything other than yes is a no.
Okay.
What you told me was you have a working sewer system and
And
you may
that-
revisit it.
Yeah, we may revisit that.
Okay,
I may
so-
revisit- That's me personally.
Okay.
There are other people here.
So the people of our township are going to go to battle again with you guys, despite the fact that
I
you're
don't
our
know that.
representatives.
We don't know that.
Well, you basically said it. Anything other than yes is a no. And you said that you'll go at it again. So 21,000 people's voices have been heard, and you're going to ignore that. That's what I hear. That's what they've heard. Also, I believe Mr. Cardis is quoted as saying, if this thing fails, not here at council, but out and about, that we may be sorry. Taxes are going to rise. What does council think of something like that, that the people that voted this down will be sorry because our taxes are going up? Is there anyone on council that wishes to speak on that?
There is a possibility, so we have a sewer utility that there may be capital improvements that have to be taken.
Okay, so
So,
here's what I see in the future, in the very
and
near
where,
future.
where would that money come from?
Now, luckily, you have a magician in your grasp.
Okay.
Mr. Cardis happens to be a magician because in odd number of years when there's election and the mayor and council are up next year, he performs a zero, holds the line. Unfortunately, on even numbered years, he's not so good at his job. We get an average of a 10% tax increase. And Mr. Cardis, I've offered you, if you ever need an extra magic wand, I have it in my back pocket. It's still in its wrapper. It's brand new and unused. So next year, the mayor and council are up. And I don't think that you'll be able to raise taxes. You never have. You never will. It's an election year. But I really wish, for the love of God, that you would honor the people's wishes and take it off the table. They told you what they wanted. Now be our representative and do what we've asked. Thank you. Have a great night.
Is there anyone else like to speak? Mr. Burns? Ms. Smithman, you're after Mr. Burns.
Good evening, council. Again, Brian Burns, 5 Slowwood Drive in Ariel. I want to thank those council people who voted no this evening. That was huge. And if I can hear the trees clapping. Thank you. It really was. It was a smart decision. And we're saving an ecologically fragile part of the township. There's not many of those left. The last time we spoke, we chatted against the Murray and Hayes properties. Mr. McCarty, you said maybe we can set some milestones or mile points so we can move forward. Has anything changed with regard to where we are with those closings?
Murray Hill?
Yeah. So, well, first let me say there's always compliments that go out to New Jersey State Green Acres program for what they provide to not only this town, but other towns for open space. And also, now they don't only provide dollars, they do a diligent research and to make sure that the ground that they're paying for or allowing to be held meets their standards. The thing that's holding up both Hayes and Murray, we were ready to close on Hayes. They did a second and final inspection, and they put a hold on the closing because they found some other issues. And they're all being, I guess, inspected through engineering at this point. Murray property has had a lot of problems. There's a lot of contaminants, a lot of barrels, buried tanks and things. And we're still spending a lot of dollars doing inspections and clearing up of that. So that's what's holding up both properties. Hayes should go quickly because it's not that extensive, but they won't release it after maybe 2 weeks ago, if my memory's correct. On their last walkthrough, they put a hold on it again because we were ready to close. But Murray, there's still a lot of things that have to be done on Mary's property.
I appreciate the efforts. And it's, Green Acres is very stringent. I'm quite aware. The first time I saw the reports, page after page, things that had to be verified, approved. And is the township going to pursue the additional 25% through the Office of Natural Resource Restoration so that the land costs will be 100% covered as they did with the Rosalind Bridge?
I believe that's the intention through Triad, yeah.
I mean, both properties qualify for those additional fundings.
I just received, it was a Dropbox file of photos. There were so many photos from them walking the grounds and recording it through GPS, where there were tires, where there were barrels, where there were tree stands for deer hunting that had to be removed. There's just, it seems every time we turn a corner with Green Acres, they find more stuff on the property.
Right.
They won't clear it until this property's clear.
I mean, if the township is open to some volunteers, I can get some people together rather than using township manpower.
Some of it can't be done by public works. Some of it
Okay.
has to be done by specialists.
Like I said, if it's just basically picking things up and putting them someplace else, whether it's a township dumpster or something.
But we're working on all that now.
Okay, I am available. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Ms. Smithman?
Hi, good evening, council. My name is Shaughnessy Smithman. I live in the SDK Millbridge Gardens Apartment Complex on Millbrook Court. The address is Millbridge Road, or sometimes 1341 Blackwood Clementon Road, apartment 341, yet it's located on Millbrook Court. I wanted to thank the council for the maintenance on the crosswalks between Kelly Driver Road, identified as Kelly Driver Lane on the New Jersey Transit bus schedule, and Millbridge Road. With the building of the new Wawa on, is it on the corner of Broad Acres? Is that considered Broad Acres there? I had concerns because the crosswalks, it didn't function properly, and it's a place where a lot of people that typically don't walk would begin to walk. So thank you for the maintenance on that. There is a closing though that's coming up. One of the major buildings in that area is about to close. From what I understand, the local Azalea ShopRite is about to close. It's located on Cedar Lane, is that correct? Between.
Well, they'll eventually move over to the old Kmart site.
Right, but it would be an empty lot.
Not necessarily,
Temporarily, it would be.
not necessarily.
There's a bus stop there. The 459 bus route is there. There are two spots heading towards the Lindenwood high-speed line. There's one located there and one located in front of the now Wawa, between that and the old, I think it was a Pizza Hut. I think that's what it used to be. I don't think it was, the Nifty 50 was closed down altogether. There's not a lot of space, and I did notice that the maintenance on the bench provided heading towards the Avondale Park and Ride in front of the Commerce One Plaza is in need of repair. I believe it was donated by the Lions Club, made the donation for that bench on that corner of Kelly Drive Road and Blackwood Clementon Road, County Route 534. Is that something I can bring up at council, that the paint is gone, the wood is splitting, and the concrete looks like it's damaged?
Yeah, that location, Mr. Carter's. We can take a look at that.
All right, with the closing of the store, I don't know if it's property of the people that own that building, but while it's in between, before it changes hands, would it be possible, there's only, it's on an incline heading into County Route 534, and it's covered in mulch. That's the stop sign. You have to walk through several large rocks, which, believe it or not, is more difficult for some people to maneuver if you don't have on sturdy boots and your ankles are not as strong. It's a tripping hazard, and the only way to fall is into the road, a 6-lane highway or a 6-lane road, county road. Maybe at the very least flatten it, make it level, and possibly put a bench, because it does get a lot of wind from the traffic going by and the people waiting for the bus with inclement weather. Even when it's good weather, there's a lot of wind. I don't know what I look like right now, but it's just from me walking here. When I return to my apartment after coming to these meetings, sometimes, I think I should have spoken with some people that attended, because maybe they would have said your hair's kind of messed up. Like I said, is there anything that can be done to that? And also, heading towards the Avondale Park and Ride, there's only one stop for that 459 bus. I know that the Friendlies has been taken over and it's a new business, but if there's any way to make a separate stop to zone, like, would that be part of the, to make like an indent, because you can't really stop the bus there.
Oh, excuse me.
But if they like made an indent so the bus could pull in, because the people that live in the Millbridge Gardens apartment complex on the upper side, I live on the lower side, so it's very convenient for me, but there's no easy way to get to that stop. And the only other stop heading towards the Sicklerville Park and Ride, which gives you access to both Philadelphia and Atlantic City, which is where people would be working. That would be a place where people would be getting good employment. They would have to cross over County Route 534 and then turn left on a Broad Acres, and then it's further down across from, it's near the rec center, Gloucester County Rec Center. And that's after walking through the apartment complex. Like I said, it doesn't concern me. I live on the lower side. The back of my apartment faces Kelly Driver Road, identified as Kelly Driver Lane on the New Jersey Transit bus schedule.
We'll take this information down. Thank you, Ms. Smith.
And the repair on the bench
Yes, the repair on the
will
bench,
be noted.
yes, has been noted.
Oh, thank
Okay.
you.
Does anyone else like to speak that has not spoken yet? Mr. Leader?
Dave Leader, Huntington Avenue, Glendorf. Mr. McCarta,
Yes.
do you know where the lectern went?
No, I don't know where the lectern is.
Mr. Cardis, do you know where the lectern went?
I believe it's stored away.
Was that done on your direction?
Did I,
Did you direct that the lectern be stored away?
yes, I did.
You realize it's a people's lectern, and I'm one of the people. And I've requested to use it multiple times. And it actually seems like the fact that I brought it up and it's been sitting there for years, that it was kind of vindictive that now the lectern had to be in storage. So Dave, don't ask for the lectern anymore because it's not here. Very convenient. Appreciate that. Congratulations to Helen Albright Troxell on a re-election. You're welcome. Question about reserve funds. When I was running finance for different parts of my businesses, when something like a roof needed to be repaired, we saved a little bit every year. So we forecasted the lifetime of that roof, forecasted what it might cost at the time of its replacement, and every year put some money in a reserve fund to take care of that. Is that a practice that council has, or the chief financial officer?
That would be the practice of the administration, but if that was, but Mr. Cardis?
No, we do not reserve money.
Right, thank you. I think it's something you might want to think about. For example, the sewer, CCMUA, the Gloucester Township MUA apparently had a whole bunch of money, and it was in reserve, I assume, for catastrophe. So a main went out, if I understand correctly, after the Gloucester Township MUA was dissolved, and that monies were needed. And it came out of the township's budget, or it was another loan, I don't know what. I find reserve accounts to be very prudent. It's a good way to forecast where your expenses are going to be each year. You have much less spikes when you forecast monies for the reserve unit on a monthly or annually basis. It's a much more stable way to do, like this building needs a roof. I don't know when that's scheduled, but the shingles keep flying away. I doubt that I'm the only one who knows that, right? You know that, Mr. Cardis.
I'm aware of it.
Yeah. So if we had a reserve fund for the roof, if we had forecasted its life, put some money away every month or every year to replace it when its life reached its end, we wouldn't have to go out for loans, we wouldn't be surprised. And we wouldn't have to mess with taxes, other than in a timely annual way. I really wish you folks would consider that. When a speed limit is set for a road, who and how is that speed limit asked to be adjusted? I understand the police do the monitoring and look at the traffic and accidents and stuff like that. But if someone, one of you folks, or the assistant chief, wanted to change the speed limit, how is that done?
Deputy Chief Benazzi, is that something you can?
That would be an engineering study, would need to be done on the roadway.
Okay, does that include other resources like county or state?
I cannot speak to that.
Okay, probably if it's not a state or county road,
Yeah, it depends
It
on the
doesn't.
road, whether it's county or state or local road, depending on the road jurisdiction.
that's what I was thinking as well. Thank you. Regarding the premature closure of the August 8th meeting, Mr. Mercado, you would never, even if you looked at the videotape, you would never, ever agree that you closed the meeting prematurely. Is that true?
Mr. Leader, I had asked if anyone wanted to speak. And no, Mr. Leader, after I banged the gavel, you raised your hand and you started yelling.
I've asked you to look at that videotape once in the past.
Mr. Leader, there was a room full of people. You were the only one shouting at the end that you wanted to speak. Mr. Shuck from Wyoke was the last speaker. It was said to everybody. We were here for 3 hours, sir. And then you spoke several times that day. And then you still got up and started shouting, sir. We went up and down, but we're going to agree to disagree, sir. Yes, I've taken a look at the video. I know what I said that evening. Thank you
You
very
did
much.
say it was unlimited time at the beginning of the meeting.
And I said, would anyone else like to speak? And there was only one individual that was left.
Mr. Leader, and I
Thank you.
confirm, I agree with President Mercado as well, that those are how the events unfolded.
Every time he called for a speaker, even if he was calling for someone who hadn't spoken before, I made an effort to raise my hand.
And we had.
When he was looking at those two gentlemen in the back whose hands were raised, he had to look right past me because my hand was raised. If you don't believe me, study the videotape. The meeting was closed prematurely. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak has not spoken yet? Ms. Hendry, you're our last speaker. Ms. Hendry?
Good evening, Dina Hendry,
Good
Summerdale.
evening.
With the EGOV that I sent, can I have that sent to me so I don't have to go searching around the website because it's pretty hard to navigate?
Yeah, we can send it to you
When will I get that sent?
tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning.
Can I confirm my email address?
We have your email address.
Okay, thank you.
And
Just for clarity,
and do you have multiple email addresses? Because sometimes you don't receive emails, you say. So-
Yeah, that's why I said,
Okay,
that's why I said, if you tell me when you're gonna send it, then I can,
ends in 0503@gmail.com?
Yeah.
I got it.
all right, thank you.
No,
Wants
no,
the
no.
answer to her
No,
question.
the reports, the annual debt service and the annual audit report.
they're on the website.
I understand, but the website's really hard to navigate, and I'm asking a question, and I shouldn't have to go on a wild goose chase to find it.
Annual debt service and
I'm
annual
saying it's hard to find the annual debt statement and the audit on the website.
What I'm saying is your website is hard to navigate, and I shouldn't have to go on a wild goose chase to find it.
I don't
It should be
think it's a
sent to me.
problem.
I'm asking,
That is your
I am
website.
asking if you can kindly send it
Ms.
to me.
Hendry, well, I'll have that sent.
I appreciate
Okay,
you.
All right, thank you very much. And with that, we'll close the second public portion.
Premature. It hasn't been a half hour. I had my timer going.
Well, you went past your time, Mr. Leader. You allowed some more time. You spoke your ego and then added some time. You came up there to speak. So it's past the
Yes,
5
no,
minutes.
no good deed goes unpunished. I appreciate
Please
that.
do not shout from the audience. Polling of directors, please.
Mr. Carly?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Cardis?
I want to congratulate Helen Albright Troxel on her win Tuesday.
Deputy Chief Manazzi?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Corbin?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Mignot?
Thank you all. Have a great night and a great week.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
I'd like to thank everyone who voted for me, and if you didn't, I intend to change your mind next time. And thank you all for coming. It's nice to see more people than we usually have, and thank you all.
Mrs. Grace Love?
Congratulations, Ms. Troxel. Really, really happy to work with you. And everyone, have a great day.
Mr. Nash?
First of all, thanks for coming out. Second of all, as the liaison for the Gloucester Township Historic and Scenic Preservation Committee, say that 3 times fast. I would like to invite all the residents of Gloucester Township to the Gabriel Davies I was correct, it's not Davis, it's Davies Tavern, for the holiday open house on Sunday, December 1st from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. If you want to get into the holiday spirit, they're going to have a Santa Claus, they're going to have a choir, some refreshments for everybody. The tavern is decorated for the holidays, so it's a nice event, and we'd like you to come out.
Mrs. Walters?
I want to congratulate Helen on her win. I want to thank everybody for coming out. I also want to thank the veterans this past Veterans Day for all the veterans that they have done and that are still doing for the community and the country. Thank you.
Mrs. Winters?
I want to congratulate Helen and I echo what Ms. Walter said about the veterans. I want to thank them for their service and everything that they do and have done for us in the past. Have a great night.
Mr. Mercado?
I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. Congratulations, Helen, on your reelection. And also congratulations to Ms. Hendry on her election to the Gloucester Township Board of Education. So I want to thank everyone for their comments tonight. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All in favor? Have a great evening, everyone.
I mean, I guess. That's what it was. They had it about the hot.
Yeah, it is way open now.
Well, they had to be climbing.
They probably put it in the exam, but they had no right to take it from the child. If you ever feed the child the money rice, you should have gave the money back to the child. They give them a free lunch. This child is no, this kid owed money. But they always give a lunch. It's a lucky lunch, but they give them a lunch every day. They just keep telling them nothing to do with lunch.
Now I see where you're going. Now I see where you get the hairline. That guy.